Roberto Piumini is Italy's foremost living author of children's stories. Twice nominated for the Hans Christian Andersen Award, he received a Gianni Rodari Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020. In 1987, he wrote a story that many consider to be his masterpiece, Lo Stralisco. This is a story that was written for a crossover target of both children and adults, and it's been translated into over a dozen languages. On December 1st, Pushkin Children's Books in the UK will be coming out with the very first ever English edition of this Italian classic, which in my translation is called GLOWRUSHES. GLOWRUSHES is the story set long ago of a Turkish artist who's summoned to the land of Noctumal. There he's asked to paint murals for a young boy whose incurable illness sees him confined to 3 windowless rooms in his father's palace. The artist Sakomat and the boy Madurer become close friends as they take their time deciding what pictures they want to depict on the walls. With time, the boy's health grows weaker and their friendship grows stronger, and what started out as a simple commission becomes a years-long labor of love. What I'm going to read to you today is a description of what Sakomat paints in the first of Madurer's 3 rooms. My name is Leah Janeczko, and this is my English translation of Roberto Piumini's Italian classic, GLOWRUSHES. Days passed, and mountains were born. Not only the valley where Insubat and Mutkul lived, and the slopes on which the lame dog raced, barking after the herd, but many other valleys and peaks, huts and fences, goats that could be seen, snakes that couldn't be seen, cliff sides and ponds with salamanders. It all slowly came to life, made of what Madurer and Sakomat knew of and imagined and wished for, sketching, changing, drawing, painting. The movement of Sakomat's hand was calm. It knew how to wait for the pictures, through words, laughter, and memories, to be decided together. The whiteness of the first wall disappeared, and in its place rose a mountainous part of the world, a space well balanced between the close and the infinite, between the deep and the towering. Each brush stroke had created a dimension, a direction, and a truth. The picture didn't stop. Gliding across the curve that connected the walls, the mountains continued, changing in texture and tone, dipping into dusky hillsides barren of woods and full of stones. Flatlands then stretched out, with sparse shacks and distant white-walled villages, much like those of Noctumal. In the foreground, actually in the background, because in the foreground there was a radiant sensation of air, a transparence worthy of notice. A nomad cart with a blue curtain crossed a little wooden bridge that spanned a river. It was an illustration Madurer had found in one of his books. The boy loved it so much and looked at it so often that Sakomat had copied it onto the wall. But to the little pepper-colored horse trotting along, tethered to the back of the cart, he'd added a girl with a red kerchief on her head. Her name was Talia. "Where's the cart going, Madurer?" "It's going far, far away, Sakomat." "Yes, but is it heading toward the hills over there, or in the other direction?" "Why do you ask?" "You see, here, around the bend, the road hasn't been drawn yet. We can have it keep going toward the hills like this, making a wide turn and heading up to that village. Or we can make it go to the right, toward the new wall." "What will be on the new wall, Sakomat?" "The world will continue. We thought of putting a plain there, didn't we? Land and more land as far as the eye can see." "Yes, make the road lead toward the plain," the boy said. "That's where Talia's cart is going. Once it's down there, Talia will get off her little horse and pick flowers." "But please, make a road that leads toward the village, too. The cart will take the other one, but because it wants to, not because there's only one road." "Of course, Madurer. There isn't only one road in the world." The third wall, and also the fourth, became a plain. It took up 2 walls because it was a very large plain and contained so many things. 2 villages, one near and one far away, fields of grain and tobacco, windmills like the ones in distant Holland. It was toward the windmills that Talia's cart was headed, as it traveled a road that crossed fields and villages, skirting a green river until, on the 4th wall, to the left of the entrance beside which the painting had started, it reached a city under siege. Soldiers in their brightly colored caps surrounded the yellowish walls of the fortified city. Batteries of stout cannon fired cannonballs, and bands of horsemen raised a whirlwind of dust around it all. There was even a catapult and a wooden tower from which archers were shooting arrows at the city's defenders. Yet the besieged were defending themselves well, and it was clear they would manage to hold out for a long time to come. Atop the city walls, unconcerned by the arrows and cannon fire, beautiful, elegant women looked down, staring at the enemy camp as though watching a town parade. And upon closer inspection, what were the besieger cavalrymen doing, if not maneuvers that might earn the admiration of the tiny ladies above? What other point was there in prancing around outside the impenetrable city? Did they perhaps think they could leap up and bring the attack inside? The walls were so tall and well fortified that the poor infantrymen farther off were falling in clusters in their attempt to scale them, ending up splashing around like geese in the moat. Sakomat spent 3 months painting the siege. It was a very complicated scene, and every day he added characters, events, stories to tell. Then, with the addition of a tiny besieger prince sending a message by carrier pigeon to a besieged princess, that part of the work was finished. Would the pigeon succeed in flying unharmed through the turbulent skies of battle? Many arrows from above and below were heading in its direction. Many projectiles were whizzing along their fated courses, regardless of its white feathers. Sakomat and Madurer knew that soldiers often grew weary when making war, that they would rather aim at a bird, which would fall without a cry, than at the many suits of armor of their enemies, with the risk of striking them and hearing their screams and seeing their blood pour out as though from a cracked ewer. However, for the time being, the pigeon was there, snowy and pure in the first yards of flight. And leaning out from an embrasure, leaning out from hope, the princess watched it approach and protected it with her gaze. By now 8 months had passed since Sakomat's arrival in Noctumal, but the picture, wrapping around the curved edge of the doorway, didn't stop. Like an open horizon, the plane swept through it and into the second room, moving away from windmills and sieges and rising in the form of gently rolling hills. This has been GLOWRUSHES by Italian author Roberto Piumini, coming out through Pushkin Children's Books on December 1st of this year.